Today on the Morning Edition, a plan to let some Matsu teachers carry concealed weapons on school grounds. Supporters say it could save crucial minutes in an emergency. Critics say the training requirements aren't enough. We'll share the questions the board still wants answered before they vote. Plus, a lawsuit filed against the Anchorage School District to halt the closure of Campbell STEM Elementary scored a victory. We'll have an update to the case and how people are responding. And later, this fan is no average fan. We'll take you into his homemade museum and show you some of his mind-blowing handmade creations and tell you what some sell for as the Morning Edition starts now. Wow, handmade, those are impressive.
You know, I know there's a lot of crossovers when it comes to movies and TV shows, and I really think it'd be cool if they did one with Star Wars and Star Trek. I know they're
together?
completely
because they have the fans
stories.
of Star Wars and the fans of Star Trek, and they're very like mine's better. So it would be interesting to see.
And they're completely different stories, but you never know. There's the way they could cross over. Certainly looking forward to hearing, looking at his collection that he's created. Well, we are waking up this morning, some drier conditions across South Central. We are also seeing some localized areas of some fog developing for parts of South Central. So just take it easy as you get out on those roadways this morning. Today will be much drier for inland areas of South Central. We'll still favor coastal rain showers sticking around, but as far as inland locations, we may just see a stray to isolated shower. Some breezy conditions expected. You can see winds are currently out of the south-southeast at 11 miles per hour, and those temperatures, they are holding in the 40s as we start off your Tuesday morning. Now, again, we're still seeing some of those showers sticking around South Central, more so out towards coastal areas. And then as you build into inland parts of South Central, we've got some of that scattered activity that is sticking around. But you can see much drier today considering the record rainfall that we did see yesterday across Anchorage and parts of South Central. Now, we're still going to be watching that potential for up to an inch of rainfall for coastal areas. We're also going to be seeing some rain building north into the interior where we've got some scattered activity to be expected today. We've got a frontal system that's draped across the state with this area of low pressure, and areas to the west of that frontal system. So as you head through the western interior, we'll largely see snow. Areas to the east of that, like you're seeing in the central interior this morning, will largely hold on to some rain showers. Now, any moisture that we do have or precipitation that we have into the night and then into our Wednesday could provide a chance that we could see some localized areas of wintry mix or light snow for the interior starting tonight into tomorrow. But as far as today, to get you out the door, that bus stop forecast, we're going to hold into anywhere from the 40s for many areas to 29 degrees as you head out towards Bethel. And you can see those temperatures across South Central today, or at least Anchorage, expected to warm into the upper 40s. We will see some 50s across South Central today. More rain, though, is back in the forecast. I'll have more on that 7-day forecast coming up.
We start today with a controversial proposal that puts school safety and gun policy on a collision course. The Matsu School Board is considering a change that would let certain qualified staff carry concealed handguns on school property. Charlie Fellows looks at the rules, the safeguards, and the pushback surrounding armed teachers.
At the April 15th Matsu Borough School Board meeting, the board introduced and heard public comment on an amendment to Board Policy 3515. The proposed change would establish, quote, a voluntary program authorizing certain qualified individuals to carry a concealed handgun on school property. The board itself didn't dive too deeply into it then, opting to instead table it for Wednesday's meeting. Superintendent Dr. Randy Trainey stressed that the board doesn't want to ram the change through.
Now that it's public, like obviously our law enforcement in the valley, the Alaska State's Troopers, other organizations, we need time to contact them and find out, what would they suggest, what do they like about this, what do they not like about it, etc.
The policy would allow faculty to apply for the ability to carry a handgun on school property, subject to physical and psychological evaluations and random drug screenings. If approved, applicants would be subject to at least 8 annual hours of training. That point in particular raised concerns for one speaker at the meeting who approved of the idea of the policy but said that training needs to be much more rigorous.
The mental fortitude to correctly identify threats and eliminate them, even if that threat is a student they have a friendship with, is extreme. This is not a little thing to demand, but it is of the utmost importance. The initial training and ongoing recertifications outlined in 3515 are far too insufficient to meet this high bar.
Board member Brooks Pitcher voiced support for the change, arguing that it would improve response times for any incidents in the large and rural Mat-Su borough.
So how are you going to stop them in enough time? And that is the heart of this policy, that none of us like that exists, but there are people who can make that decision. And this district has, in fact, had some close calls in recent years.
Charlie Fellows, Alaska's news source.
The amendment is currently listed as a non-action item at Wednesday's meeting, which is scheduled for 6 p.m. at the district's central office in Palmer. Parents who filed a lawsuit against the Anchorage School District to stop it from closing Campbell STEM Elementary say they're encouraged by a judge's ruling. The judge issued a preliminary injunction Friday, which put a hold on closure efforts until a further hearing is held. Members of the nonprofit group which sued the district are challenging the district's decision-making process and say they never had a chance to get their questions answered about why the school had to close.
Every metric that they've said, test scores or utilization, absenteeism, maintenance, can all be refuted. So if they have a reason of why it's closing, we should have a chance to refute said reason.
The judge scheduled a hearing May 14th and gave the district until the next day to hold a public hearing to address the closure decision. When asked for comment, the district said it had received the judge's order and is reviewing it with legal counsel. At the Capitol, an effort to override the governor's veto of a bipartisan elections bill failed in a 38-32 vote Monday. They needed 40 to override. Governor Mike Dunleavy says he vetoed the bill over legal concerns, saying the Division of Elections would not be ready to put it in place by November. The House Speaker called the result extremely disappointing for what the bill would have changed and what the governor said, go to our website or mobile app. The Palmer grand jury indicted Misty Reeder of animal cruelty. She is now scheduled to be arraigned in Palmer Superior Court Wednesday afternoon. 23 dogs died at a property linked to Reeder. The borough says the enforcement-related investigations are expected to continue through the month. 1 month after a U.S. Supreme Court ruling on so-called conversion therapy laws, Anchorage's ban on the practice for minors remains on the books and untested. Our investigative team's Johnson Kuhn spent the last month learning what supporters and opponents say the Alaska implications are.
It started here in August of 2020, when Anchorage Assembly voted 9-2 to ban licensed practitioners from performing so-called conversion therapy on minors. The debate was contentious. Opponents argued it violated free speech and parental rights. Supporters said the ordinance protected youth from harm. 3 years later, a similar bill that would have extended the ban statewide died without a vote in the Alaska legislature. Then, 1 month ago, the U.S. Supreme Court's 8-1 decision, siding with a Colorado therapist who argued her state's ban violated her First Amendment rights. The court did not say conversion therapy is safe or effective.
We have lots of medical and scientific research to show us that conversion therapy is ineffective.
Emphasizing it's a practice every major medical organization has condemned. Supporters of conversion therapy bans, like the Alaska Psychological Association's Dr. Kevin Tarlow, say they now worry about protections for minors being undercut.
Conversion therapy is also potentially very harmful, so it can increase a patient's risk of things like depression, addiction, suicide, and those harms are especially concerning for younger patients, for children.
Tarlow also says few, if any, licensed Alaska providers offer the practice, but he says the ruling raises a bigger question about patient protections.
I 100% agree with the Supreme Court.
But opponents of conversion therapy bans, like Anchorage pastor Ron Hoffman, say the decision they feel is about free speech gives them new legal ground. His church has no licensed counselors on staff and is exempt from the ordinance he now wants to see overturned.
But when they converted it to the idea of, hey, I can't even share with you a different point of view, or a licensed therapist can't say, hey, there is consequences to this decision, or this is a different lifestyle that may or may not be correct. I think that's where it went out beyond its bounds of what the people think conversion therapy is.
How do we protect people from clinicians, from healthcare providers that are offering guidance or treatments that are harmful? because now anybody can just say, well, it's my freedom of speech to say that to a patient in a treatment setting.
Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
Two perspectives from this debate. Anchorage's ordinance only applies to licensed practitioners and only to minors, with civil penalties that can reach $500 per day. Some states are exploring workarounds, such as California and Colorado. The states are working to treat conversion therapy as a malpractice issue rather than a speech restriction. Alaska has made no similar move. We expand on that part of the story on our website and mobile app. A decade of data paints a clear pattern. The state says pedestrian fatalities peak in the darker months and late night hours, and impairment shows up again and again. Georgina Fernandez shares what the report found and what officials want you to do differently.
That number, 92 people killed, is based off of a new report from State of Alaska Epidemiology, looking at data from 2016 to 2025. Of those 92 deaths, the majority of them happened between August and October, mostly between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., with 16% happening in September alone. The state says reduced light and the start of winter driving conditions could be why we've seen a spike in these types of collisions during those months.
Other things we can look at on the prevention side is just for the pedestrians themselves to be aware of those time changes so that they can dress according to that, maybe use reflectors during the darker hours after summer when there aren't so many dark times.
The report also looks at impairment, specifically fatalities from 2016 to 2024, where the state says 54% of pedestrians were impaired and 34% of drivers were also impaired. Yet the state does warn there could be a miscount here. This data does not include impairment for drivers that left the scene, which happened in 28 out of 92 of the fatalities seen in the past decade. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Downtown Fairbanks is moving one step closer to new life on the corner of First Avenue and Lacey Street. The city wants developers to submit proposals for the site where the Polaris building stood before it was demolished last summer. The request for proposals went out Friday and will remain open for 90 days. A timeline Mayor Mindy O'Neill says is too tight.
I think 90 days is a tough time, during the summer is a tough time to put together what is, seemingly a multi-million-dollar proposal. But, I think it's a start. And I've heard loud and clear that the public wants to get this ball rolling. The council wants to get this ball rolling. And so let's start. We always have the ability to retract and change course if we need to.
Meantime, during the summer, the city plans to have spaces available at the site for retail and activities. Still ahead on the Morning Edition, Palmer celebrated Drive Your Tractor to Work Day, and as usual, it sparked up the normal conversations about local versus imported. We'll show you what they're doing to boost local business next.
Much drier today for inland areas of South Central, but a wet weather pattern still with us this week. We'll have more on that, but first at sunrise, 5:38 in Anchorage, 5:02 in Fairbanks. Your full forecast is next.
Welcome back in. 16 minutes past the hour on this Tuesday morning. Still just a cloud cover, kind of foggy and gross outside, Darren.
Yeah, we are seeing some localized areas of fog this morning. Take a look at this time lapse from yesterday evening on through the night, where we did see kind of some of that fog kind of weaving back and forth through the Eagle River Valley. And this morning we are waking up to some localized fog through the valley as well as out towards parts of the Glen Highway. But we are drier this morning across inland areas of South Central, and that will be the trend through the rest of today. Now, we can't rule out spotty to isolated showers, but largely expecting those dry conditions to persist for inland locations. Visibility down to 6 miles in Wasilla, down towards Valdez, Cordova. You're seeing that visibility fluctuate between 4 to 7 miles. Elsewhere, we are seeing visibility not much of an issue, but still be mindful that you could encounter some of those localized areas of some patchy fog as you get out on the roadways this morning. And we are still holding on to that scattered showers across South Central, most of that really out towards coastal areas, and as you head north through parts of the Susitna Valley and lower parts of the valley. But again, we are going to see much drier conditions today across a good portion of South Central. You can see this area of low pressure still pulling in that moisture across South Central. That is driving into the interior as well. On the back side of this low, we've got our winds coming in out of the north-northwest, which means that any moisture that we're seeing across western parts of the interior is largely falling as some snow, while locations to the east continue to hold on to some of those rain showers. Now, we did officially pick up a brand new record yesterday as we saw right around 4/10 of an inch of rainfall, which beat the previous record set back in 2013. And good news is, as we've already been mentioning, today is going to be much drier across a good portion of South Central, outside of coastal regions, which will continue to keep some of that rain around, more so towards Prince William Sound as we head through the rest of the day. Out towards Seward, Homer, Kodiak, you will be much drier, but we'll still see some of those passing showers sticking around. And you can see that snow to the west of that frontal system where the winds are coming in out of the northwest, while locations to the east are largely holding on to that rain, if not a rain-snow mix. So we are going to see some of that active weather building into the interior as we head through the rest of today. Of course, we'll look at that closely coming up in my next forecast. But as far as what we are going to see as we close out this week or through at least the middle of the week, some quieter conditions do build back in across the state. This will be short-lived as we are watching another system that's going to build north out of the Pacific Ocean. And that's just going to kind of reinforce some of these wet conditions across coastal areas from the Aleutians out towards Kodiak and coastal regions of South Central. So here over the next couple of days, we'll still see about 1 to 2+ inches of rain across coastal areas, while inland locations will see about 1/4 to roughly about 1/2 inch of rainfall, with some locally heavier amounts, particularly as you head north out towards Hatcher Pass and the foothills of the Talkeetna Mountains. So we'll be watching for that. We are currently at the second wettest start to a year on record. You can see May sitting at above average precipitation. For today, we are going to see a few 50-degree readings in the forecast, but here over the next couple of days, really over the next week, we are going to be seeing signs of 50s making a return. There's those rain showers sticking around through the end of the week as we welcome in the weekend and early next week. Those temperatures warm into the lower 50s.
For the entire month of May, we are working to make sure no child in Anchorage or Fairbanks goes hungry through our annual May No Child Go Hungry drive. It's a partnership between our stations benefiting the Anchorage and Fairbanks food banks. To learn more, including drop-off locations, scan the QR code on your screen or go to our website and click on the link in the top banner. And think you've got what it takes if you've got the voice to make history, we want to hear it. As part of our We the People celebration, KTUU and KTVF are inviting you to be part of this milestone moment with the Star Spangled Sing-Off. One lucky person will win an all-expenses-paid trip to Nashville to film a performance that will air on Gray stations across the country. Vote for your favorite entry starting in June. Here's how to enter. Submit a solo a cappella performance of a complete version of the national anthem. You must be 18 or older. Residents in Fairbanks and the interior should enter on the KTVF site. Other Alaska residents should enter on the KTUU site. Upload your video by Sunday, May 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7:59 p.m. Alaska time by going to our website, clicking the contests link in the upper banner. That's also where you can view the official rules. 10 years ago, it began with one tractor. This year, it was dozens of tractors and a full roll through town. Palmer's Drive Your Tractor to Work Day brought out the big rigs. As Danny Tompkins reports, it was a challenge for shoppers.
A familiar rumble for farmers in Palmer, but an unusual sight to see on the road.
This is the 10th annual Drive Your Tractor to Work Day.
And I hitched a ride on one of the 54 tractors with farmer John DePriest.
We're driving through the street. Right now you can see a car coming here on the left, and we are headed to the pavilion.
A 30-minute drive with a lasting message.
It's my favorite day of the year.
Organizer Arthur Keys says if you live in Alaska, only 5% of your produce is locally sourced.
That is an optimistic number. Events like this, raise awareness, and we're going to push that number up. Honestly, the very first event was one tractor. It was my tractor, and I drove it into Palmer and parked it in front of my office, and I had no idea that this is where we're going to end up.
The community showed up, ready and excited.
He likes to get his picture taken in the tire every year.
Taking home free potatoes.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
And a challenge from Sabrina Combs with the Alaska Farmland Trust.
We call it the $5 challenge. Every time you go to the grocery store, try and spend $5 on locally sourced products. And that just really, really will help give back to your community.
5% locally grown. Palmer is working to change that. One tractor at a time. Danny Tompkins, Alaska's news source.
That $5 challenge is expanding this summer. Alaska Grown and the Division of Agriculture say you will see it at participating stores with a push to buy $5 in local produce each week from June through October.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting. Available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.